Hello, pilots and crew. This is Full Armor Zero Zeta, here to teach you about Gundam Battle Operations 2. Episode 1 The Basics. The basics can be go over on the tutorial, but in case you already touched the basics on the network test or have played GBO2 as well, you can feel free to skip the video or provide any input in the comment section down below. My name is Full Faz. Well, as we're looking at the Faz here. So, basics to get into Gundam Battle Operations 2 are the various amounts of suits. Starting off with the full armor Double Zeta. Over here you have your customize to customize parts and stats. As you can see here in the bar, the range strength is increased. Or you can attach tags to make sorting easier. I'm still a little messy when it comes to that. You can check the enhancement list to see what enhancements happen as you level up a suit through the hangar. Such as looking for increased ballistic resistance, anti-beam modifier, ranged modifier, complex expansion slots. Sorry, my speech seems to be a little impaired today. Gonna have the mechanics look at that. Some suits can have their sortie timers reduced by 1 second, which can be imperative to get back to the fight quicker than most suits. The range modifier is anything that involves weapons, such as your main weapons, such as the Faz double beam rifle, the head-mounted Vulcans, 6-tube small missile launcher, or just any other armaments that are available. Not all suits are the same, but most will have a main weapon, a melee, and a sub-weapon. As an example, some suits can have more than one weapon to choose from, such as the Ifrit Schneid with the shotgun and the giant bazooka, each with their own advantages, such as the bazooka being able to provide not massive power, but intermediate power on hit, decent ammo, and long-range capabilities. Cooldown time is measured of when a weapon can be used again or fired within succession. This weapon takes 7.4 seconds to use again. The reload rate is also when you press the reload button, or, in some cases, beam weapons, such as the XS's Gundam's Smart Beam Rifle. The overheat time is when you overheat it and the time it takes for it to cool, to be used again. Melee weapons also have a cooldown time to use again, so beware of that, as some do not have the same cooldown time. Beam weapons do need some heat management to use, but we'll get over that in the next episode. For now, we're going to go over the basics. We will be using the Gundam, just to show the basics of what to use and do within battle.
Ready to begin?
Not all suits have the same movement speed. Most movement, basically, the base movement speed is just walking on ground, but in space it floats. We will cover a tutorial on that later. All suits have a boost to use. Identified at the gauge below, a bar will go up, and it will also decrease for you to use it again.
So you'll need to be comfortable with the controls.
Some suits have a dodge roll, as used right there. Some suits have advanced tech to even use dodge rolls twice, or dodges in space twice. Some even gain 2 dodge rolls on ground, but not 2 dodge rolls in space. Doing it backwards will cause you to do a backstep.
There are 3 mobile suit categories. Each has its own role in combat, and can be strong or weak to the other categories.
As said by the AI, Gundam is a general type, identified by the blue icon when selecting it when you're ready to sorting. Raids are red, and supports are yellow. This game has a rock, paper, scissors function. Generals will only do base damage towards each other.
General-type mobile suits feature a well-rounded, durable design that makes them ideal for establishing and holding the battle line.
As
They
explained,
deal increased damage to enemy raid types.
as explained by Tenda, the person that will introduce you to the game, different types will go over that. But you can dodge in all directions, minus up and down. Apologies for ending that practice early.
Making preparations for sortie.
We will start off in an Arctic base map, just so we don't hear Tendo going over the basics. We will adjust the suit cost for 500. But going back to the mobile suits, again, sorry for jumping all over the place. I'll make a dedicated episode for basic controls. But this is to go over the basics of everything. Starting off, right on the stat that is right above ballistic resistance, right next to the ground and space sorties, support is highlighted as yellow. Supports are your general backline suits, such as FAS, GPO2 MLRS, Heavy Gundam. These will be your backline suits. They don't take as much damage as they do from generals, but they do increase damage to general units. General units are your frontline units. They take the fight to the enemy. Raid types, depending on their playstyle, will either flank enemies or hit enemies fast and hard. Some feature increased turn speed, thruster gauge, top speed, or high speed movement. Increased melee strength. In the case of Gundam Unit 5, it is more range based than most, because of its giant Gatling cannon. No two suits are the same when it comes to this. Some may perform similarly, which we will provide an example with the Zaku's. Or, in the case of the Blue Destiny Unit series. Blue Destiny Unit 1 can only sortie in ground, but it has ground compatibility, which means it will be able to move and churn faster. Blue Destiny Unit 2 has less armor than its counterpart, but that's because of the different levels. All suits have different levels that raise their stats comparatively. This is so you can use it at higher tiers and even use it in multiple situations. Blue Destiny Unit 2 and Blue Destiny Unit 1 feature increased melee strength, as most raids do. Blue Destiny units have a similar loadout and playstyle, yet that they have a special ability, but that will be explained in a later episode. There's even Dom units, like Dom Barrage, Dom Cannon Multi-Cannon type, Dom High Speed Experimental, Dom Tropen, and Dodge. You can go through multiple series when it comes to these suits. And these range from main character suits, like the Gundam, Super Gundam, Rick Deja. As you go higher in cost, all the stats will also raise comparatively. But all suits have their own strengths and weaknesses. And that is up to you to figure out what the playstyle is. But we'll go over a basic unit that everyone knows in the Gundam series. suit that everyone knows within the series. The gym. You will pull out the gym card for this to show what a suit can do. Episode 1 is will be a general purpose and quick reference guide. Most suits will always have a main weapon and melee as stated before. Some suits can't melee twice, like this suit can only melee once. Some suits don't have Vulcans, like so. But this suit only has 3 weapons. Some suits can have multiple weapons within their loadout.
The majority of combat happens in a mobile suit, so you'll need to be comfortable with the controls.
Not all stuns happen quickly, so you have to be on your toes to stun the suit. As you can see, all my weapons are down. I have to wait.
Each has its own role in combat, and can be strong or weak to the other category.
Getting that out of the way. But as you go through the costs, all suits have varying levels of usage.
Making preparations for sortie.
To go over the basics without the tutorial voice going over, we'll use a suit that I'm very familiar with. As all suits have different combos to effectively use it. Some suits are more advanced than others. But to go over quickly, skills on a suit can be accessed by going through equipment set, going through shortcuts which will allow you to access your weapons relatively. Skills determine what a whole suit can and can't do. Without many skills, you won't be able to do a lot. Just like shock absorbers allow you to go from a high place up high to a place down low without sacrificing too much leg load. It can even decrease the time that it takes for it to recover. The emergency evasion system is basically a dodge roll. This will allows you to evade attacks and gain essentially iframes, but beware, a dodge roll has a longer iframe than dashing backwards. Dodging forwards allows you to get closer to an enemy, but you don't want to use it to avoid attacks. Think of it as a parry system in a way, or to get out of danger. High speed and back is only a space skill. Essentially, there's a recovery animation you have to go through. Some units take decreased damage and overload on certain parts. Gym 3 Powered has special head buffer. While this doesn't decrease damage dealt, it does decrease the part breakage on it. Force injectors are essentially allow you to dash side to side more effectively. Most supports can't do this, but some generals can, and most raids can use force injectors. The Gym 3 Powered has a special skill to it called Interrupt Tackle, which when you melee, you can interrupt it to tackle back towards an enemy. Say you're fighting against a raid, and it melees you. You can interrupt your melee to tackle them back and counter. But through the tutorial, it teaches you how to counter. Some units have enhanced tackle, which allows you to do damage just by bumping into them, and increase the distance covered while tackling. Tackling isn't like dodge rolls, as it's a dash forward. When you bump into an enemy, they are stunned, unless they have resistance. Instant Thruster Precision System decreases that cost. This unit can essentially tackle twice. There is anti-jamming functions for stealth units. They will jam your radar. This essentially counters that. Damage control doesn't allow you to be stunned by, say, machine gun attacks, or attacks that have build up a stun. Power Accelerator is only available during clashes, but those are rare, as they have to be the same type for the same different attack. Going over, most suits have a melee priority, ranging from 1 through 3. The higher your melee priority, you will be able to overpower some attacks. Someone will try to melee you, you will do no damage, and they'll still hit you. Time to sortie again increases as you go up higher in cost. Number of sorties shows you how many times you sortied in said suit. And when you use the suit enough times, you'll actually get increased chance when enhancing suits to get a great success, which gives you a lot more progress than a regular success. Compatibility ranges from ground, space, and water. Some suits have compatibility in ground and water. Some suits have space and water. But there's no suit with space and water just yet. To explain, customizations will allow you to spec out your suit in a way you can upgrade it. To go through, listed here, I will go down the list from top to bottom. Ballistic resistance. Defense against enemy ballistic weapons, such as Vulcans, machine guns, grenade launchers, rocket launchers, and cannons. Beam resistance. Defense against enemy beam weapons, such as the Phas cannon, Jim spray gun, Access's smart beam rifle, Gundam's beam rifle, and much more. Melee resistance. Defense against melee weapons. Most melee weapons have the same moveset, but some also have differing ranges, such as the Zaku Heat Hawk versus, say, the Gundam's Beam Saber. Some have differing ranges depending on the suit, but you'll have to figure that out for yourself as you go through. Some suits, such as supports, don't have a melee weapon, but instead use the weight of the suit to deal crushing blows against the enemy. But because supports aren't melee focused, they're generally not good for melee. But some can actually be effective against generals. Range strength, as explained before, that is all ballistic and beam weapons. And it's generally a percentage taken from the damage that you deal. Melee strength is all melee. All mobile suits have different move speeds. Some supports are slow, while some are fast. Some reads are slow, and of course, most are fast. Generals have differing movement speeds. Top speed is while you're boosting. Thruster gauge is how much thrust you have to use top speed, dodge rolls, and much more. Now, unlike most games, this is to be noted. Churning speed is how fast the mobile suit can rotate, also known as sensitivity. You're going to want to use a controller for this game. Also, Mobile Suit HP is unit durability, aka how much health you have. Your ballistic beam and melee resistance will also determine your survivability. You could have all the health in the world, but if you don't have the resistance to tank a hit, you'll suffer. As you saw earlier, Faz's stats have 0 melee resistance, so raids can actually chew through all that health, no problem. You'll take the full brunt of it, along with the advantage that you have against mobile suits. Mobile suit melee priority, as explained earlier, when 2 melee attacks clash, the MS with greater melee priority will win out. You can check the melee priorities at a glance while looking at a mobile suit. What is compatibility and how does it boost your unit's performance? Ground compatibility has your sensor consumption reduced, running speed increased, turning speed increased, and overheat recovery time shortened. Take note of this of what suits you want to use at ground and different costs. But some don't have any compatibility and are generally all-purpose. Space compatibility, effective high-performance balancer. Thrust consumption is reduced, running speed and turning speed increased, just like the previous, but you get the level 1 scope high-performance balancer. When you're underwater, you receive a debuff to movement speed, turning speed, and generally you don't want to be underwater. Although there is one stage that is underwater, but we'll get back to the maps later. High speed movement is possible while jumping, as you're not under the effects of much gravity versus while in the air. So to be able to jump up and actually boost underwater and kind of glide, running speed and high speed movement rate is increased, and turning speed is increased. They can also shoot weapons while boosting. Some units can do that with some weapons, if they have the skill. We'll get back to customizations later in a separate video. Now what are parts? Parts allow you to affect a unit in varying ways, such as adding resistance, increasing boost, increasing damage, even by a little, or even having part damage as a way to mitigate what happens. You can even increase durability and turning speed. We'll go over you can even increase shield reinforcement, increase the health of your shield depending on the suit. This can make or break some suits, but losing a shield can also give you benefits of also, well, let's just say a unit can get faster if they don't have a shield, or if it's broken. Some abilities you can have is where you can have ranged beam weapons recover from overheating faster. Now some can recover their heat faster than just waiting for it to recover fully. We will show off what a high tier suit does.
Ready to begin?
Trimming speed is kind of high, but some suits do not have it. Some suits have a charge time to make it more powerful. Like so. That's when I was focusing, some weapons cannot be fired. Like I'm attempting here.
The majority of combat happens in a mobile
So this can only
suit.
shoot.
You'll need to be comfortable with the controls.
So this can only shoot when you focus fire.
Good.
I will be switching off game sound to further explain. Some bazookas aren't the same, as this is a shrapnel bazooka. It will airburst and send out a shotgun blast. Like so. Up close it does shotgun blast, but at range it'll go out and then split off. As demonstrated right there, you can do 2 melee strikes with some suits. Granted, this is a very high spec suit to use for general mobility. You can shred up the battlefield. Granted, these are low level suits. But we won't get into that, as you can look at previous videos of me using suits. Some Vulcans don't have the same rate of fire, as demonstrated to Jim Kai, as it was a little slow. This can shoot a little bit faster, but you'll have to find out how suits perform yourself as you go through. Hitting a shield can also prove the difference between life or death when it comes to some suits. As in the anime, that would generally pierce and actually kill him. But in here, well, he can survive a hit. No matter what weapon it is, it can absorb a hit unless it hits multiple times. Which we will demonstrate with the suit, the Gundam Unit 4 BST. This will be the last demonstration before moving on to the next episode. Some suits have a continuous beam rifle, but this is just to show what happens when an attack hits a shield. Some beam rifles can be tap fired, but like so. But as you can see, the heat rises as you use the weapon. If it's in the yellow, that means the shot will overheat, so beam management is imperative to use. But like I said before, all Vulcans don't behave the same, while this one's slow. But I'll demonstrate that. Some have powerful beam attacks that you can use to your advantage to cause massive damage to a unit. Some even have sub-weapons that will act like a Vulcan. Aiming for the head isn't very important. Well, that does 2,839 damage to the chest. It'll do the same amount of damage. So you don't have to worry about where you hit, generally speaking. All suits and weapons can actually reload while they're in your inventory, as I'll demonstrate here. As that bar goes, you can actually switch off and wait for it. By the time you switch back, it will come back. But this is basic combat and will be covered more in a later episode. Some suits like this can actually excel at destroying bases, as you can see at the top right. Since most weapons will actually do minimal damage, that won't make a difference. So team attacks are important, or you could just wait for your mega beam rifle to come back and hit it again. Now you can shoot the lip. Now in ground modes, there are two different types of damage. In ground mode, there's leg damage, which at in the bottom right corner is a portion of damage you have to deal before the legs will actually break. But maneuvers such as this, as demonstrated, as you can see the bar rise up as I maneuver, will actually put load on it. If that bar fills, well, you'll trip over. If your head is broken, you won't be able to use radar, and you'll have a static across your entire screen, which is generally annoying. But your head breaking isn't an issue, but we'll be explaining it in a later episode. As you can see there, you can completely delete a shield with an attack. But all shields have different health, especially at different levels. Depending on the size too, it can actually differ on health. But I will show the dodge roll for this suit. It's actually twice. In space. But I will see you all later. And you, pilots and crew, stay fabulous.